Okay, in this video, we are going to do two things. Number one, I am going to walk you through this flow so that you know what a sales cycle is and why we're trying to automate it in Salesforce in the first place. And then I'm going to show you some stuff in Salesforce so you know what it looks like. And then part two is I'm going to talk about how you can customize this for your business. So if you're on the smaller side, we might want to simplify how this works. If you're more on the bigger side, you might want to add some stuff to this to make it even better and more tailored to your business. So I'm going to walk you through both of those as well. All right, so to even start this conversation, it's important that we just make sure we're on the same page here of why we even need to have a sales process, okay? A sales process, what even is that? Sometimes I'll work with a business that doesn't have one clearly defined. They have maybe an idea, but they don't even have the actual stages that they would go through in order to close a client. So keeping it very, very simple, what is a sales cycle? A sales cycle is going from somebody raising their hand and saying, hey, I'm interested in your product or service, and all the steps I would have to go through as a sales rep to close that deal. And what does a closed deal even mean? So for an example down here, you can see some words: prospecting, contacted, proposal sent, negotiate. Those are some examples of what you might have to go through in order to close the deal. So a real life example, let's use my business. My business, what I have to do is I have to typically get on a discovery call with a lead, talk to them, see if we're a good fit. After that, I got to send them a proposal. Then I usually have to negotiate terms and rates and things like that. And then from there, once they sign the contract, that to me is a closed won deal. I actually don't need to collect money from them. We collect money on the first of the month for that coming month. So if they sign on, October 1st, I'm going to collect money from them on November 1st per my contract. So I actually will mark something as close won when they sign the contract. Other businesses might call it close won when they sign the contract and send them money. So you got to kind of determine what this stuff means to you, but you're essentially just mapping out, here's all the little steps I have to go through to get somebody to say, I'm interested, to yes, I want to work with you, or yes, I want to buy your product, or yes, I want to use your services. And that's as simple as it is. That's what we're mapping out here. So for sure, have that in place before you try to put it in Salesforce. Otherwise, it's going to be really annoying for either the Salesforce admin you work with or the consultant, because they're going to be trying to brainstorm this with you and trying to build it out at the same time, which typically does not work well. So step number one, if you do not have one, map out these things and try to keep it as simple as you can. Don't try to have 20 steps in here, right? Try to bulk things together. What is prospecting? What is contacted? What is proposal sent? And the reason that we have this is another thing that we want to talk about real quick. Why do we even have this? Why do I need to map this out? Well, as you scale your business out, you're going to have sales managers, you're going to have sales reps that have to get trained up. Your sales reps need to know the steps they have to go through to get somebody through the process to sign the deal. Then your sales managers need to do that as well. And they usually at that point, since they're the manager, want to check in on their team so that they can see, oh, okay, Jordan is working 10 deals and all 10 of his deals are in the proposal sent stage, right? Or they're all in negotiation. Okay, so we should have quite a bit of close won opportunities coming up this month because he's got 10 of them sitting in this stage. We should be able to get that wrapped up this month. In other words, forecasting. It's going to help your business, your sales managers forecast for the future how much money is going to be coming in to the business. So it does play a critical part. You don't want to skip it. You want to understand what it is. If you're on the smaller side and you maybe don't have it on the sales reps right now, sometimes that's hard to see that vision. But if you're on the bigger side, this is kind of all obvious. Okay, great. So that's the whole point of this stuff, okay, what we're going to be going through. So what we have up here is when you have a new opportunity. In Salesforce terms, when we have a lead that says they're interested to buy our service or product, we then create an opportunity inside of Salesforce. So we call them at this point a new opportunity. Very typically, you'll move that stage. The very first stage that you'll see is going to be open. Usually just means, hey, they raise their hand, they said they're interested. I haven't even looked into them. I haven't called them. I haven't done anything. Just said they're interested, and it's now an opportunity for us to sell our service or our product to this person. So typically you'll see that the opportunity gets moved into a stage called open. If you don't want to call it open, think of something similar, but open is a very typical one you'll see. From there, we're going to look to see when this deal gets updated. Now, sales reps, like I mentioned, they hate Salesforce when they feel like it becomes this admin thing that they have to do. I have family and friends that are in sales, so I also hear this feedback personally, but even just working with a ton of different clients, the feedback is always the same. Sales reps hate it because they get in there, they have to click around and find all this stuff, and they have to update it in a certain way, and they have to put the deal in a certain stage, and they have to update their notes. And before they know it, they're spending hours out of their week trying to just make sure Salesforce has the stuff it needs versus actually staying on the phone or emailing people or going to sales calls to close the deal. You hired your sales reps so they could close deals. You didn't hire your sales reps to update Salesforce. They may have to do that, but it is our job on the Salesforce side as a consulting firm to make sure that we take as much of that away from your sales team as possible. So whatever we can automate, the less they have to update in there, the less they have to do. It's a win for everybody. It's a win for your business because you get tried and true good information in there because it just automatically updates. And then your sales reps have to use it less, which allows them to hopefully close more deals for you and do what they're good at. So it's win that way. ROI wise, it's good for your business because if you think about it, your sales rep is spending time and money trying to actually go into Salesforce and update these things. When you convert their salary to an hourly rate, if you pay your sales reps, whatever, 100 grand a year, and you convert that to an hourly rate, that's probably something like, let's just make up a number, $50 an hour. Okay, if you're paying someone $50 an hour and they're spending 10 hours a week updating stuff that we could automate inside of Salesforce, you're wasting all that time and money, right? And then you combine that by how many sales reps you have. Pretty soon you have tens of thousands of dollars per year that you're spending having your sales reps trying to do this when we could just automate it. So it quite literally wastes time and money for your business as well. So when it gets to this deal updated part where, okay, great, it wasn't open, they said they're interested, we now have a few stages down here. We have prospecting, contacted, proposal sent, negotiation, and then a closed won or a closed lost deal. So we need to then define as a business what those triggers are. What do these things represent? When does somebody update it to prospecting? When does somebody update it to contacted? And if this is brand new for you, I would put these stages into place once you've mapped that out and have your sales reps do it manually for a little bit, maybe a couple weeks, a month, and get a feel for when they're updating it into these processes and make sure that feels right for the business. Once that is all set in stone and you feel good about the stages you have, then we can start to identify the triggers, is what I call them. Or in other words, when a sales rep does this, we want to update the stage to this. So in prospecting, if it was an open and now we want to update it to prospecting, what does the rep typically do? The rep manually starts researching the opportunity. Okay, so what does that mean? They just quite literally go to like LinkedIn or they go to their email and they Google and they start looking up the company? Or do they update anything inside of Salesforce? Is anything in Salesforce going to tell us that they are now prospecting? This one might be the only one where it's a little tricky to automate because if it is that they are manually starting to research, there's probably not really much of a trigger. So they will likely take this opportunity and manually update the stage from open to prospecting. Then from there, if they send out an email or they call them or they log in an activity through something like that to say, hey, they picked up the phone, I spoke with them today, they update some notes that say that, we can automatically pick up on that and say, hey, there's a new email that has been tracked as an activity that says this person answered the email or answered the phone call. Great. We can automatically now update this stage to contacted. Same goes for proposal sent. After you send out a DocuSign, we can have DocuSign get attached to that opportunity and the proposal that was sent. And that can also work as a trigger for us on the automation side to say, hey, look, there's a new DocuSign. It was sent out with a contract. Great. Let's automatically update this deal to proposal sent. And same for negotiation, same for close won and close lost. Right? So looking for these triggers, my point here, even if these are super simplistic to you, is trying to figure out what is it that they do. Can we automatically capture that inside of Salesforce? All those ones I just mentioned, yes, you can. You can capture when someone emails. You can capture when someone calls. You can capture when someone sends a DocuSign. You can do all that. So if that is already happening inside of Salesforce, then all you do on the other side of things is you automate it on the back end to say, when a DocuSign is sent, update the opportunity to proposal sent. When an email is logged and it says that they answered, update it to contacted, right? So you can identify what has to happen in order for these things to get automated and updated inside of Salesforce for you. From there, another key thing that I see that is helpful is to also have some kind of auto-populated date. Sometimes companies will just auto-populate a close won date or a close lost date, so you know when that deal actually took place, or when you lost that deal, in case you want to reach back out to them in whatever, 6 months, a year. Sometimes I just see that. I have seen in situations though where they have a date for each one of these steps. So if somebody moves it into prospecting, we auto-populate a date that says prospecting date, and it will stamp it with the date that that happens. That also can help with your forecasting up here, so that again, you can start to identify patterns. Like, hey, Jordan, when he moves something into prospecting, it's typically taken him 3 months to move an opportunity from prospecting to contacted. So he sits there and researches them for 3 months for some reason before he even tries to make his first initial reach out. Whereas the rest of the company, this is like the next day, right? So you can identify coaching problems as well within the sales process so that you get more efficient and better at it, and identify where the strengths and weaknesses are on your team with the sales reps. So it's, maybe depend on how many you have here. I think some people view it as overkill, but I do think that there is a good validated reason why you'd want to do that. And then same goes for when a deal finally gets closed. When you do move this into close won or close lost, you also want to require there to be some type of reason that you get filled out. And that reason will tell you, hey, we close won them and here's why. This is what they loved about us. Or we didn't win this deal and here's why, because they went with a competitor, or they hated our pricing, or they thought the product wasn't as polished as they wanted it to be. So you want to collect these things. So again, you get a feedback loop going. Nothing is worse than spending a bunch of time and effort with your sales team, going through this process, losing the deal, and then not even realizing why you lost the deal. When you go back a month later to try to figure out and get some feedback, you don't even have that logged. So it makes it very difficult that way, okay? So this is how we would do this. Let me show you some stuff here inside of Salesforce. This is just set up in my own, so it's not going to be exactly what you saw here, but this is what it's going to look like when you have it. You have this thing up here called a path. This is what they call it on Salesforce. And up here are those stages that we're talking about. So great, Jordan reached out to this person. He moves it into prospecting. And again, you could have different stages here that you want to have for your own sales process. And what we're saying is, instead of the sales rep coming in here and marking this as the current stage, or coming into here and hitting the drop down and moving it into the stage, and really that part of it, it doesn't take much time and effort, right? The issue is that as your company gets bigger, there's going to be a lot of opportunities. And the reality of the situation is your sales reps don't always want or remember to come in here and make sure these are all updated to their current stage. I can say this just from a ticketing standpoint. Our business does a lot of tickets with clients that we work with, what we're currently working on. And my developers and my admins that are working with the clients, sometimes that can be a struggle. They don't always go in there and leave notes for me to tell me what's going on, or leave notes for the project manager to tell them what's going on. So it's kind of the same thing here with your sales reps. They don't always remember to come in here, update notes, and update the stage, which again affects it for your sales manager, affects it for the C-suite, affects it for your forecasting, because now you guys that are not working the deal, you don't know where this is at, and you can't estimate how much is in your pipeline. You can't estimate what's going to close this month. You can't estimate when you can hire a new sales rep, when you should fire a sales rep, because your forecasting is off. So it is an important process, and it's not the fact that this part takes long to do. It's just the fact that as you get bigger and bigger, this starts to become a problem where people just don't go and do it. So this is what this would look like inside of here, okay? And what I mean is having this update automatically is you have some fields inside of here, right? So if we just make up some kind of use case, if I update the, amount to 12, I know that this needs to go into value proposition because now I know how much this deal is worth, right? So let's make something bigger. $20,000 is how much this deal is worth. Okay, great. Jordan entered the amount. We need to automatically update this deal to value proposition because now that's what we're evaluating at this stage. So you get the point. That's how we would do this on the back end for you and make that difference. Now, the very last piece of this video that I want to go through is some of that customization. So this is a very simplistic approach and would work really well for you if you're on the smaller side of things. If you're on the bigger side of things, I keep trying to say, if you're more complex, if you're on the bigger side of things, you have more people in the business, more stuff going on. One thing that I would consider adding that I've seen work really well is after we update these dates automatically for you, we require a close lost reason or a close won reason. Sometimes I've seen businesses also have an automation kickoff to go through all the other small steps that you want to make sure are in place and taken care of before you mark something as close won. So an example might be, hey, I got to actually make sure that finance has seen the proposal, that they've actually processed the proposal, that they created some kind of invoice, that they sent out the invoice to the client, that the client actually paid us. So there might be additional steps that you want to make sure happen. And you can kick off an automation down here that would pop open a screen on Salesforce and then walk your sales rep through those steps to make sure all of them are done or information is entered in before they then say it is closed won. So if you have some additional things like that, that's something I would consider that is really popular with other clients we've worked with on the bigger side of things. So some cool little things you could customize here to make that better. But overall, if this is interesting to you, if you do not have this mapped out or you want some additional automations here that I mentioned onto the one you're currently using, there's a link below inside of our description on this video, and you can click it. It'll send it to one of our sales reps. We'll talk with you and see if we're a good fit. If we are, we'd love to come in and set this up for you guys.